Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final vlog for Ready Persona 1. This is the vlog immediately following after the epilogue. So, what do you all want to talk about? What's your reactions to things, just out of curiosity?
That was a good story. Let's do it again, right? I mean,
Was
The
a
game,
yeah,
uh,
it's
go ahead.
beautiful.
It was mostly happy. I did, that was the thing. The way that I normally do the epilogues is I get what everybody requests. And I try to honor what everyone wrote in their individual epilogues. And just piece them all together so they all fit and don't like contradict each other. And essentially, as long as they don't contradict, I normally just take whatever it is that you requested. I also try to find a decent balance such that not everything is all happy. Like there has to be some unfinished business, and because there were certain things that I think we didn't fully focus on where we could have. There would have been a way that you could have completely cured the silent plague, but that just
mhm.
didn't end up going in the cards. There would have been a way, excuse me, for yeah. I mean, just in general, there were a lot of things that could have played out differently, and just wanted to make sure that that I honored what both not what you, both what you did and what you didn't do, which is fine. Um,
Completely understandable.
but all around,
Mhm.
I try to give you all everything what you wanted, and it seemed like you mostly wanted everything to be happy, so I gave you that. um, so
Well, to be fair, I'm really happy with how the Silent Lake turned out. It's
mhm.
a really nice way to show that yeah, we didn't really focus on it, but the thing that it says on the story itself is consequences are there and they will still be there. That it's
Yeah,
really nice to see that even with the there were a few darker passages in the
yeah,
epilogue.
Yeah.
It's true. It's yeah, not everything can be fixed. And sometimes it's
yeah,
just live with the consequences of the things that you did wrong.
yeah,
And some people could live with it. Some people were plotting to fix things for themselves, and other people decided
yeah,
to move on.
yeah.
Mm.
Horus never could steer Blue away from a life of villainy, a life of super villainy. He tried so hard.
Yeah,
There,
I
there's
don't
one
even
thing
know.
there. There's a little headcanon there that the support animal, I think Forrest has a support animal, right?
Right. A
Yeah,
Was
yellow, I
Forrest,
think.
yeah.
Nimbus.
Yellow
Yellow,
has
yeah,
a
yeah.
support animal, Nimbus. Yeah.
That it's not a turtle, but it's a chicken. And then
Oh,
eventually the horse comes, kills the chicken, and we have an entire
Oh
John Wick
no.
story.
oh
There's a
no.
John Wick story.
Oh
Yep.
no.
Oh, oh, that'd
Yellow
be
goes
interesting.
haywire on the entire size of the city and destroys everything to revenge his support chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yellow is John Wick now, aren't they?
Mm.
Okay. That's I accidentally made John Wick. Okay. Oh man. Ah,
It's
I,
beautiful.
I I don't even know what to talk about. I mean, I know in mine, like I hit points that I wanted to hit, and I left them like relatively open
I did. Yeah.
to be, yeah. And I did that myself, I think, when I go back and read my notes. So honestly, I think it was some of your decisions to end thing happy too, end things happy as well. But I'm not against it, you know? I mean, who doesn't like a dark, brooding storyline?
Yeah. Kyle or Sage.
Character's dad hates himself. That, as you can see, I laugh sometimes when son gets nervous. I'm like, oh shit,
Yeah.
which makes sense. But
Yeah.
that hit hard. Uh,
How satisfied are you that Gabe and Ariel eventually didn't get back together and but still remain friends?
I like that because I
Yeah.
think I went into this that's not what I wanted for
Mm.
Gabe. I think I expressed that the only time where like maybe that would be a thing is if literally Saz was actually like a
Yeah.
evil guy, but Saz
Right.
was not an actual evil
No.
guy. He's just a all right guy who's been a little bit
Manipulated.
brainwashed.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that was the only outcome where that happened. So I'm happy with that. Gabe and fully moved on.
Yeah. Yeah, I anticipated that you would prefer that as well. But I certainly left the door open for anything to happen between him and Ariel, like reconciliation wise throughout the campaign.
Yeah.
So how about you, Sage?
Well, I want to lead with just saying, look, thank you, Hark, that
Oh,
you did an amazing job and you put in a ton of work and you organized the schedule and you did all the creativity and you made an amazing experience for us.
Yeah.
So I'm not alone. I guarantee it, and saying like thank you so much. And it's awesome that you facilitated this.
that thank you, Sage. And again, that validates things for me too, since
Mhm.
I've said multiple times, Sage is one of the players that I was the most nervous about.
Yeah.
Just given his experience and given his own very awesome like YouTube channel that has far better production value than mine does, but way more production value than mine does. So yeah, no, I coming from you especially, Sage. Not obviously, I appreciate all of you, all the rest of you too, but thank you for voicing that.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And as far as Cade goes, is I feel like Cade had probably a better ending than he really deserved, honestly.
Mm.
Like um
Yeah.
Cade Cade isn't where he's at because of himself. It was like his friend group basically picked him up and dragged
Yeah,
him into a happy ending. Because if he was the one steering the wheel, he would have just crashed it right into a wall
yeah.
as early as possible. So
Yeah.
thank you guys.
That's why I wrote what happened with him and Rook the way that I did, because it seemed very clear with what Sage wrote on his epilogue that Cade was wanted to face the consequences of his actions against Rook, and Rook definitely was wanted to draw blood, like to put it nicely. And so this is where I thought this is where the favor comes in. This is where like uh
Ah,
yeah,
Okay.
4S favors would come in, because
Mhm.
I wanted to honor the fact that Cade, didn't feel like he deserved a happier ending, and therefore this is what he technically wanted to just let things go take its course. But then that favor comes around. He's like, oh, that favor, and
Mhm.
I thought that would be a good way to finally have the favor cashed
Oh,
in.
I like
So
that the favor
Yeah,
came
the
full
full
circle
circle.
because that was
Yeah.
Yeah.
early, man.
yeah,
That was
Yeah. That was
I think
like
three.
4 or 5, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. And I asked Ethan about those things. I asked him about the favor, if he had already had something in mind. Because if he didn't, I had an idea. So that's what ended up making it onto the page. And then I also asked Ethan about the the spring water that he had that could essentially cure any negative condition. Would you give it to Cade? Would you give it to Seymour? Would you give it to someone else? Like he could have given it to anyone who was affected by the silent plague. Um,
Yep.
as and there are a lot of people. He could have given it to Jennifer Steele so she could walk again. Like he could have given it to a lot of people. So I think things would have played very differently depending on where that bottle ended up, or he could have saved it. But I feel like we're at the point where he probably should just use it on someone right now, because we may be running out of opportunities
Yeah.
to use it later on.
Rest has like a combination of decision paralysis, but also like as I've been playing Forest, I've kind of come into like this mindset of like Forest kind of believes themselves to be a good person, but sometimes what they do isn't good for everyone. And I specifically did not write anything about the Mystic Water because that was something Hark approached me about. Um, because well, one, I kind of forgot about it, but secondly, like I just didn't know how I wanted to use it, and yeah, I think Forest would be a bit selfish there and use it for Seymour, and that's exactly what happened. I did entertain the possibility of using it on Jennifer, but then Hark informed me that it probably wouldn't have worked because it was a condition she was born with, not afflicted by. Um, yeah. Where was I going with this? I'm sorry, I do not have my
No,
ducks in a
it's all
row.
good.
I was writing a dry
Yeah.
rye pie
Yeah.
advertisement.
I guess you're just trying to justify why you didn't help poor little Ave with his fear of
Mm.
public transport, huh?
Oh, that's
Is that
true.
important
Public
enough?
transportation. That's true.
Poor little Ave
Well,
can never take a bus.
Yeah.
We're friends
Yeah.
with Gabe. Gabe, can
It's
you
okay.
give me a ride?
more like Chrono.
I wanted to reveal a plot twist that I thought about and I just completely forgot. And I'm not sure if it would have landed well, but I had a lot planned with Leonard. If you remember, Leonard's the guy that just got screwed over so many times. So
Oh yeah.
I had I
Yeah.
had a thought that I forgot to write down, that cheat code was actually Leonard. That cheat
Oh.
code that cheat code was actually Leonard the whole time because he just was sick and tired of you all like messing with him because he find out that you were the one who screwed him over from his job and that's why his life. So that's what I had intended on. And then I remembered it after the final battle. I was like, dang it, that's what I wanted to do. So, and I was hoping to utilize Leonard a little bit better in the epilogue, but I just couldn't figure out where he could fit. So I just gave him a mention for Soul 95. But yeah, just a little reveal. I was like, oh, I feel like that was a missed opportunity. That would have been really like entertaining if he was the villain the whole time. So I also, and the other thing that I wanted that was I had intended for Leonard, and this could still be canon if I wanted to, is if you remember back in session 1 when you were at the convention and there was like that know-it-all kid that was messing with Gabe or yeah with Gabe. It's like, oh well, in patch number whatever, blah 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 blah. So what I had intended on revealing was his character in Sci-Fi City was Leonard. That was his character as well. And that's how the two were connected. But again, I just couldn't figure out a way to drop that in the story. But it was something I wrote down later on that him and Leonard were the counterparts of each other. So
Like we're discussing the Ready Persona 1 iceberg and we're getting down to the base of it.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Are there any like
Mhm.
missed opportunities, or maybe not missed opportunities, but
a
like
lot.
alternate paths we could have taken like as a group, not just
There
like anyone in particular?
there was okay, the one that I am most regretful for is I wish we had so many more sessions because on paper I felt like,
Yeah.
we'll be able to do this thing where 80% of the time is 75% of the time is going to be in the real world, but then 25% of the time is going to be with the other characters. And I wanted to do more in the Vita world than we actually did.
Mhm.
Especially to just flesh out your hero characters more. Like that's my biggest regret I just underestimated how many more sessions I would have loved to have. And there was a session where I had planned for you all to end up in South City, like one of your beta testing sessions, where it was meant to be a very psychological thriller type of thing where you basically woke up somewhere and you didn't remember who you were, but clearly something very like dark and creepy happened and you have to like
Oh.
slowly piece together like how you got there and why it happened and what's going on. And I had all this stuff that I had planned on doing because I thought it'd be a really really cool session, but we just didn't have time to fit it in anywhere. And by that point you had all kind of been distrusting the Vita system in general, and so there wasn't very much motivation for y'all to continue with the beta testing necessarily, just because he didn't trust it. So I was like, oh, I guess I can't do that yet. But maybe in
Sounds like a what
end
if.
game. Sounds like an end game session.
Yeah,
maybe.
I had some ideas about all that.
Uh,
I mean, I don't want to spoil anything in case it actually does become something I do, but I
Mhm.
was thinking about running like a Wind, Vita, and Saizao were like different things, like different
Mm,
worlds,
hmm.
and running like a DM campaign where our player characters were like happening like when the first war happened, and like our virtual characters all killed the other people. I thought about doing a session there, and I think, well, I have like a lot of ideas, but I don't know any deep lore. So I guess tangent, but is there any deep lore that we didn't discover or anything like that?
Don't think so.
Don't
Like
think so.
I kept a lot of things very vague on purpose because admittedly I was less I was just putting more emphasis on what was going on in the present versus what would versus what happened in the past. Um but for you are more than welcome to fill in the blanks as much as you'd like, but for sure.
The prequel.
A prequel.
Wonderful. I will be sure to put Jar Jar Binks in there.
Uh,
I'm
Making the Sith
curious.
Lord now. Do it.
Yep.
So I'm curious. I want to hear what you guys think our character dynamics would be like moving forward. You know, maybe unspoken ones at this point.
Unspoken.
Like I'll give an example. So like something that would be in between Cade and Gavin is that did I say that right? Gavin or
it's
is it Gavin?
Gaben. It's
Yeah.
Gaben.
Um, so something that would be in between Cade and Gavin is that because Gavin is so freaking strong, Cade would have, he would want to create contingencies of like what happens if he goes bad and basically make a list of all the crazy too powerful people who could cause massive problems. But, it's like he still wants to develop the relationship, still
Uh,
wants to steal your money. And
yeah. You would turn the outcasts into the Suicide Squad, is what you're saying.
if needed,
Right.
don't know how he would create a contingency, but
Yeah.
it would be on his
That
mind
that
at least.
yeah, like that storyline where Batman figured out every single character's weakness if they ever every single hero's weakness if they ever go bad as a contingency,
Mhm,
including himself. Like, this is how you defeat me if I ever go bad.
mhm.
Like, that sounds, I like that. That sounds really cool.
Hmm. Yeah. I think Avon and Kate, it was mentioned in one little line. They could kind of become really frenemies almost with their line of jobs because at some point with the Cascade is a private investigator, it could be that they both are defending the same person, which make them great allies in that moment, but they could also be defending to the opposite sides.
Yeah.
So it'd be the one time they
Yes.
could be really annoyed by each other. More, bit like if
Yes.
anyone has played Ace Attorney, like the two main characters there,
Uh,
they're friends, but when they're against each other, they're really at it.
yeah, I
And
thought it was
then
interesting how
yeah,
you were like, your perspective was, I want to defend the innocent, and Kate's
hmm
perspective is like, I want to get the guilty. And it's like,
hmm
what happens when those
Hmm.
conflict?
And
Right.
that's funnily enough, that's exactly how Ace Attorney is going. Well, how
Mhm.
that story goes. It's the defense attorney versus the prosecutor every single time. But they're both friends unless they're fighting each other in court itself. So that could be a really fun dynamic.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I
Oh,
think
Cade wouldn't go to
yeah,
court though.
Ave and Gaben are that's kind of already there. I think it's quite obvious how that's going on. Ave and Forrest are gonna do way more than we addressed in the epilogue because they're gonna investigate what's happened and
Mhm,
with the whole other world. So that's future stuff that we are not
mhm.
there yet. But that could be, yeah. Whatever
I
happens there might totally change the dynamic between those two.
I did think a lot about like how me and specifically Ave or Abe's relationship would evolve. And part of me did question if it would evolve into something romantic. Um, and it's really interesting because I view Forrest as asexual panromantic. So when that happened in the the epilogue, it just blindsided me. I'm like, whoa, okay, cool. Good for you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ethan.
No, I was just saying that wasn't condescending. That was
Yeah, I when it comes to romances, just like they are in video games, like it's always optional, right? But I know that many players have fun with those things. And so I wasn't sure where Joey was there with his character because I didn't want to force any particular character at him. So my strategy has always been I'm just gonna like throw situations at players and characters, and if they take the bait, great. If they don't, then I move on. And I wasn't sure how things stood with Tomas because I think I sent a couple signals Abe's way,
Mhm.
and I talked with Joey about that. Is it because you as a player aren't really interested in that for your character, or is it more that Abe's oblivious? And Joey told me he's just oblivious. So I said, okay, like, do you have anyone in mind if there was going to be something romantically? And I don't remember what you told me, Joey. I think you said you were open to it as long as.
Yeah, it was mostly with Tomas, he was 90% oblivious and 10% fearful of ruining their friendship. But he was open to it. But Tomas had to. What I sent was Abe is open to relationship, but Tomas would have to convince him just a little bit more. And I think it checks out that he was able to.
Yeah, I think yeah, with Tomas I left it open ended purposely as well because I wanted
Hmm.
Joey to decide, was it just a first date and then they decided to be friends afterward, or did it turn into something else? I didn't want to just make that. I didn't want to make a
Hmm.
decision since it seemed like Joey was still on the fence as well. But I thought that adding in a little bit more depth to Tomas's personal experiences and why he created the character that he created
Hmm.
started to fit really well. And I thought maybe part of him opening up to um Ave by allowing himself to be that vulnerable. I'm sure he's made himself vulnerable to Ave before, but this is like a new thing that I think Ave, as his best friend, even he didn't know yet. So I thought that was,
Yeah, I really
a
like
nice
what
little
you did
touch.
with really like what you did with Homeboy there. The fact that he used
Cool.
that character to experience it was really, really well, yeah, really well done.
yeah. That was clever. Uh
Hmm.
I'm not sure what else to say about that.
To answer Sage's question about Gaben, I feel like Gaben now he has the power, both money and actual power wise, that I feel like he can have his company and do his family, and basically he's the Bruce Wayne of our Justice League. So like legitimately, if any of them come up to be like, let's say Kay goes, "Hey Gaben, I want to start up a bakery." All right, here you go.
I think out of principle, Cade would not ask. He would know that's your vibe, but he would try and steal it.
I like the idea there's a security is just specifically Buford's like, oh, Cade's trying to break in again. He's like, God damn. uh, I don't know why. I was like, you know what? We don't have too much romance. Let me give Buford his own romance companion. So that's what I did. So that was fun.
Gabe ended up with two,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and two separate kids from both of them, which is ambitious. But
My
Ladies man.
my personal belief on that is I feel like Gabe, if they were separated, I think Odin would have gone for Mama Sutra, and then Gaben probably would have gone for Phoebe, or Gabriel would have gone for
right,
Phoebe.
right.
And how I picture this is Odin has the open-mindedness of being able to try a relationship like this, but Gabriel actually has the maturity for this to actually work.
Hmm.
I
So
agree. Yeah.
that's how I pictured it. Uh, Another note, I was almost tempted to try to romance Appledew just to annoy
Just to
Kate.
annoy Kate.
That would annoy Cade.
That would have been really weird.
Yeah.
Really.
It
Oh.
would have been.
I'd
Oh,
have to
But
call
that
you
didn't
dad.
but that
That'd be
didn't
weird.
happen.
Was
So
there was there specific characters, because I definitely have a lot in mind, with specific character NPCs that you wish you would have learned more about or spent more time with during the campaign and just didn't have the opportunity to?
At least for me, probably would have been Phoebe and Mama Sutra
Yeah,
because
I agree.
that's
I agree.
so. I feel like it works. It's just that it's a lot more like, okay, we gotta imagine where that conversation went.
Hmm.
'Cause I feel like they're fine with it. Like I feel like if Gaben was like, "Hey, do you guys want to go on a date?" I'm gonna, and I feel like both of them would be like, "Okay."
Yeah, they both would. They both were choosing those two was actually it makes sense. It makes a
I
lot of
think it's
sense.
also strange that they're not the same person now, but they're technically each other's counterparts.
Right.
Ugh.
Honestly, could answer that question in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
Stalin still comes to mind as someone like, oh, there could have been a lot of interesting stuff to go on
Yeah.
there. But I could also say like Dr. Kemper, I think Dr. Kemper and Rook's another one
Yes.
I could definitely say.
I
Honestly,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ethan. Sorry.
honestly, I want to know more about Prey. We saw
Mm,
her twice, and
Yes,
both
that's
times there were
true.
True.
fights, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. We Again, Prey was a character that I introduced that I definitely saw you could have interacted more with depending on whatever choices you made and what you wanted to focus more on. Because you could have for sure spent more time with the outcasts, especially when you broke into the outcasts like lair. And I was prepared for a little bit more Prey stuff. But yeah, I 100% agree with that. Um, in response to what Cade or what Sage said, I really liked. I was surprised actually when it was happening. I actually really liked the kind of understanding and relationship that was forming between Stalin and Cade Oz. I didn't. I thought they would actually hate each other more, especially when he started sort of dating Jennifer. But no, like they actually seemed to have like a really early understanding, and I would have loved to have explored that even further. Um, and Dr. Kemper, I was actually trying to do more with his character because it was such an ongoing thing for Cade to continually trying to throw trackers on him and trying to make him pay for things. So I that's another thing that I wish I did better was just did I could have probably done Dr. Kemper a little bit better than I did.
the thing about Dr. Kemper is he was really representative of mystery, so like
Yeah,
I can understand why he had to be held back because he was a mystery. He was part of this
right.
complex um, villainy, for lack of a better word. So I can understand why, but yeah, I feel like I definitely feel like there was many unspoken conversations that could
Yeah,
have.
I agree. 100%. Joey.
I don't think, yeah, no. I think every single character that yeah, the easy answer is all of them, basically all of them. But I think the time that we had, we learned a lot about every single character, and it was I can like, picture something for every single one of them in my mind, and that's enough for me. I
Yeah.
kind of I know them enough.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Uh,
they're all interesting characters, so
yeah.
just give us
I
25 more sessions. It's okay.
I I feel like we played a video game that now we just want to replay and see what would have
Hmm.
happened if we chose the other decision. Yeah, because I'm playing
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate
Yeah.
3
Totally
right
say
now,
it.
and
Yeah,
Baldur's
same.
Gate 3 has a lot of replayability.
Oh,
Hmm.
And
yeah.
so I am, realistically, that's not really possible at this moment. But yeah, I could see
Yeah.
us redoing this campaign from the very beginning, and it just plays out super differently, and you learn way more different things about the other characters that we didn't spend as much time on.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and
The
then
next play is Kate's Dark Urge.
yeah, Cade's Dark Urge. Yes, Cade's Dark Urge. Yes, that'd be amazing.
Oh.
Actually, I want to go on like a little rant about this. So I
Okay.
feel like each DM I play with brings something new and unique to the table, and they have like certain strengths, And I think one of like the defining flavor of Hark's DMing is like really, really deep. We're in like one city, so it's only like this much surface area, but then it just goes down and down and down. And for like 100 sessions, I don't know how many, but it kept being reveal after reveal after reveal. and every single NPC was like it was like as in depth as our characters, every single one of them. And I've never seen that before. That was something like unique to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's something I want to try in my next campaign as well as a GM. It's
yeah, it
just
inspired
focus
me.
down on one place and
Yep.
really focus on 10, 15 NPCs at most and just flesh them out way more than I do right now.
Yeah. I fully agree. I've built whole worlds before, but now I'm far more interested in building
Yeah.
Yeah,
a single city and making it
exactly.
Hmm.
crazy in detail.
Yeah, I do find that it's easier for me to fully flesh out characters than fully flesh out a world. If I'm being very honest, because I my world building I think is okay, but I do try really hard to just make as many characters as well defined as possible. And it's tough because again, you can spend so much time on a character and then your players don't really interact with them as much.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
Prey, like I did flesh Prey out quite a bit, but you didn't really talk to Prey as much. And so you kind of have to realistically flesh out the character to a certain point so that once if your players do start interacting with more, then you're like, okay, let's add more on top of this now because it seems like they're really interested. I would have loved to have done way more with Jacob
Mhm.
is another one because I thought Jacob from the beginning just seemed like a very interesting character, and I loved his first session with
Hmm.
Forrest. Um, but then I just couldn't fit him anywhere else, and I thought he would have been involved in the story a lot more if it were up to me, given the way certain things played out. So
Hmm.
yeah,
He was our bagpipe kid part.
Mhm.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
my current plan for what happens next, without spoiling, is I want to get Raphael his romantic love interest that he's waiting for, if I can help it. Try
Oh,
to be a weekend for his
that'll
son.
happen. Yeah, that's guaranteed to happen.
Oh, that awkward boy. I gotta help.
He just smells so good. How can it
Yeah,
not
Yeah.
work?
sprinkle of 95.
Drinks Bristol 95. It is
Uh,
tough. It is tough dating someone who's a new parent, especially a young new parent with a kid. So that's
Mhm.
that's the only thing that might be a little difficult for some people. But
Well,
especially when he has to explain. He's like, no, I've never done that before. They're like, well, you have a kid. He's like,
well, but I'm
technically.
technically I'm still a virgin though. How does that
yeah,
work?
that would be interesting.
um,
It doesn't hurt that his dad is like infinitely rich and a god.
That is
Yeah.
true. That is true.
that is true. You
Right.
have to filter out the
It's also
wrong
terrifying.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that would be intimidating.
Hmm.
I don't have to worry about Angie. Angie's all good. I don't have to worry about her.
Yeah, and
Thunderstruck.
Thunderstrike. And Jay would have loved to have done more with, but I
Mhm.
think Raphael, you all just gravitated to his character more. Raphael and Loki, you just gravitated more because he's
Fun.
Hmm.
the villain slash bad boys do tend to be more interesting. So you know,
It was a natural fit with Nave as well. That helped with Loki.
Uh, I know we don't have much time, but one thing I wanted to ask is, at least for Joey, is how you felt about Gabe and Larry being like, I forgive your brother for the stuff that he did, even personally to my family, but I won't let it slide if they try it again. So I'm not sure how you think Abe feels about that.
Hmm. Like Ava, he's a real believer in second chances because that's why he really wants to help people get that justice for them. Especially what he's seen with Kate. Everyone deserves a second chance, but that point would be third chance, and that's a bit much, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, he has done everything in his power to make Rook see what yeah what his beliefs are and what's the best for the world.
yeah.
If at some point it just messes up again, he wouldn't like it, of course. It's still his brother, but he would understand what would happen, and he wouldn't. Yeah, he wouldn't blame Gaben for it.
If we were to replay this campaign again, I want Ave to side with Rook during the second
Yeah.
playthrough because I
Hmm.
had I had a lot of ideas about essentially having a you know join the druids and essentially becoming a warlock himself, like making a pact with the Raven Queen and give him like
Ooh.
warlock like abilities. I was like, that would have been really interesting if we went that route.
That would be cool, yeah.
So
That would be especially
he was
interesting with
really
Grella
close.
involved.
I'm
Oh
sorry, what did you say,
yeah.
Sage? I'm sorry.
That would have been especially interesting because Grella would have been involved during that time period.
Yes, exactly. And how that would have affected Cade, knowing that, yeah, like for sure, that would have been interesting.
I have a feeling you told Gabe, yeah, we killed her, and my character's like, you shouldn't kill people. And you tell her how much, how evil she is, even up to the point where you're like, hey, just like, because even to the point where you were like asking for like a reason not to kill her, she literally was just like, well, if you kill me, you're gonna die. I feel like even at that point, Gabe would be like, sometimes you can't help it.
Hmm.
Probably been the one time where he doesn't like give you a lecture about it. You probably be like, yeah, I understand.
Yo, that was an interesting moment, like because it was had so much build up that I was frozen in it, like uh, looking back, I may have some regrets around there, like maybe being more forceful and just like offing her quicker, but it happened the way it happened, and yeah, I guess that was a standout moment for me, despite like my own frozenness and hesitation with it.
Hmm. I think
I
that
thought
those moments were the purest player interaction
Yeah.
that we had. That makes I think it was the correct thing that you did as a character because you're put into it as a player and you're so into the moment that
Yeah.
Yeah.
you really make the
'Cause you
wrong
dream about it.
decision there.
You dream about it over
Yeah.
and over and over again, and then it's there, and now
Then
it's
it's
not a
there.
dream anymore.
That's
Yeah.
Right.
so different than
Yeah, and it doesn't happen any way that you expect it to either. And it's like he
Yeah.
pulls like, oh, it's Grella. Whoops, there goes
The
that
cir
plan.
the circumstances were not exactly how you envisioned it, and there's other
Mhm.
factors. So
Hmm.
Ethan, I remember you mentioning that you have played a lot of campaigns where they just didn't complete, they just never completed it.
Hmm.
How many campaigns have you actually completed prior to this? Just out of curiosity that you remember.
0.
Really? This is your first time finishing a
Yeah.
campaign from the beginning?
Congratulations. Woo!
Congratulations!
Yeah.
You did it.
I
think
don't
that
think
makes
it's
me
much of
so
an accomplishment, but thank you.
that makes me so happy. You're like the third player who's told me that they had never finished a campaign until now. So I'm very happy about that. So
Well, I think the problem is mostly like the first few sessions. That's when it always drops off. I think for anybody who's played D&D, it's like if you don't mesh in the first few sessions, then it just falls apart and nothing really happens anymore.
yeah.
Um, but we kind of can't do that because we're also recording YouTube stuff. So,
Yeah.
so we kind of had to mesh, but I think we did pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean,
Mhm.
you had an advantage in that you all like picked each other to some degree. You chose each other, you got to see each other's interviews. So it's a little different,
It
Mhm.
and
is,
also
I'd say.
knowing that, if things don't work out, I can replace you because there's other people who also wants to jump into. So there was that as well. But I'm glad that for the four of you, I didn't have to replace any of you because I would have hated it, and I'm so grateful at what we created together. So thank you very
Mhm.
much. Well, thank you everybody for watching.
Hmm.
Tune in for the final campaign, which is the endgame campaign. I'm sure you'll probably see these four in some form, maybe during that time. So until then, love yourselves and love each other.
So long.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
See ya. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the camp.
Crazy.